Well, hi, 11th grade. Mr. Kuehl here. Wow, today is a weird day. I didn't hear about the school closing until I had already driven an hour to the school, and then I heard and I drove an hour home. So I am translating this lesson to digital format as best I can in the half hour before class starts. Hopefully it goes up on time, but hey, YouTube sometimes takes some time to upload, so we'll see. But thank you for being here. I have kind of a little bit of almost like a game that I invented today called Shades of Evil. Basically, we had this really great conversation about good and evil after watching the Zimbardo thing. I asked you guys to write about your definitions of good and evil first. Then we watched Zimbardo's sort of definitions of good and evil and talking about what each one of them is and how they manifest. And we made some connections to the Crucible. So what I wanted to do is get more specific with that and look at specific characters and ask you to use your, insight, your definition of good and evil, the conversations we had to sort of rate various characters from the play on their relative goodness and evil. If we were in class, we would have a beautiful, healthy debate on this. But what I'm going to ask you to do, since we had to translate this to be both shorter and remote, is to think about it for yourself and do the work of rating these characters with your sort of explanations. And then I'll talk to you about some of my ideas. So let's go forward. This is the free write. I'm not going to make you do it because, again, the day is shorter. But if you love free writing, if it brings you great joy, pause this video, do a free write real quick. What is the greatest TV show ever made? Make your argument. But unless you're going to do that on your own, I'm going to move forward into the next chunk. So the game show that I invented is called Shades of Evil. And again, last class we discussed good and evil. You talked about your own definitions. We heard Zimbardo's ideas about the concepts, and we shared connections. For today's lessons, I want us to rate some of our characters on a scale from good to evil. So you're going to rate each character and explain your reasoning. Why are you putting them there? Now, we're not necessarily going to agree on this. I actually had some very unpopular opinions in my other two classes when we did this lesson. People disagreed strongly with me. So I'm not the authority. This is just my version of morality and goodness and evil. So please take the time to do it on your own and then maybe compare with some of my ideas. Maybe you'll agree, maybe you'll disagree. Either one is fine. But on Google Classroom, I shared with you this scale from evil to good. So 0 would be neutral, and then you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going from least evil to most evil, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going from least good to most good. So pause this video, jump into that doc, fill it out. It basically has the character, whether you think they're good or evil, your rating on the goodness evil scale, and then your explanation. Pause the video, go do that, and then I'll talk through them with you on this video. All right, you're back. So what I did is I set up lines for each one of them. So I'm going to go through the characters sort of in the order that I remember them. But I would start with John Proctor. Now, I like John Proctor. I think he's a good dude. So I rated him pretty high. I gave him a 4. I didn't give him a 5 because I think he did mess up. He had this affair with Abigail, and for me, that keeps him from being sort of pure good. I don't know that we should hold that against him too much. I think he's trying to make up for it, but I don't know. Maybe to you, that's a really terrible thing to do, and you can't forgive him for that, and maybe that bumped him down. We also should keep in mind, the affair with Abigail, in a lot of ways, set off this whole train of events. So even though maybe he didn't know that, he's responsible for a lot of bad in the play. But I went with a 4 because I basically think that Proctor is a good man. He made a mistake, a big mistake, but he's truly remorseful for it. He regrets it. He's trying to make up for it. And in terms of the play, he is fighting against corruption, fighting against the authority, even though it puts him at danger. He is fighting to protect his wife, and he is willing to risk his reputation to call out Abigail on the claims she's making. So for me, Proctor was about a 4 on the good scale. Let's go, maybe Paris is a good place to go. Paris, I put at about a 3 on the evil scale. The reason I put him there, I think he's the worst. I don't like Paris. He's a bummer. I don't think that he actively wants to hurt people what I think about Paris is he's so selfish and self-centered, and he loves power so much that he is basically willing to do anything to protect his power. He's sort of like a cornered animal. The difference between him and a cornered animal is that a cornered animal thinks it's protecting its life. Paris is just protecting his position and his reputation and stuff. So definitely think he's a bad dude for that, for being willing to kind of do whatever it takes to protect his reputation. That being said, I don't think he actively wants to harm people. He actually was speaking out against witchcraft at the beginning because, again, he was more worried about his reputation. He didn't want to hurt anyone. He just wanted to keep his position and his reputation. However, as the play's gone on, obviously he's engaged more and more in the trials and trying to legitimize them to make himself feel better. So I put him at a 3 because I think he's pretty bad, but more selfish and self-centered than actively trying to cause harm and damage. He just doesn't care that much if harm and damage happens. So that's where I stood on Paris. Hale, I actually put as about a 3 on the good scale. I think Hale, the bad things that he does are really a result of ignorance. It's a result of the time that he lives in and believing that witches are real and that they affect people. But I think Hale's motives are good. I think he wants to help and he wants to do the right thing. He just doesn't know what the right thing is. And for me, the reason why I put him on the good scale, and actually pretty far up on the good scale, is I see that Hale is really willing to question himself. I feel like in Act 2 and in Act 3, he is willing to entertain the possibility that he's wrong, entertain the possibility that he's missed something, or that people are confessing and accusing for reasons other than that they are actually witches or actually been affected by witches. I think that questioning shows me that he's a good person trying to do the right thing. He's not always doing the right thing, but I think that's more a result of the time that he's in and the circumstances he's in than the fact that he is not a good person. I think Hale's sort of a hero in waiting, that he is, as the situation's developing and he's realizing there are some problems with the way things are playing out, he's trying to do the right thing and rectify the wrong. So that's why I put him there. On the other side of the spectrum, I would put Danforth, and I would put Danforth at about a 2 evil. And the reasons why are basically the converse of Hale. He's another person in authority. He's another person who believes in witchcraft and who is responsible for accusing people and trying people. But I think the difference with Danforth that I see in Act 3 is he is so... he believes so much in the system and in authority and in his own power and authority that he gets offended and shuts people down when they disagree with him. And so Danforth ends up being more concerned, I think, with people questioning the court and questioning him than with actually finding the truth. I think generally he wants to find the truth. I think he thinks of himself as being just and true, but that blind allegiance to sort of authority, the fact that he believes in the court and in religion blindly without questioning anything, and that expects other people to believe in him that same way, puts him on the evil scale for me. He's not deeper because I think he wants to do the right thing, but I think he wants to do the right thing and fully believes that the right thing is whatever the court decides. And in many ways, he is the court. So there's some self-serving ego and power tripping going on there. Who else do we have? Mary Warren, I put her at about a 1 on the good scale. I had a lot of students put her at sort of true neutral. Here's my thing with Mary Warren. I think she wants to do the right thing. I think she's just an incredibly weak character who is so easily swayed by others. So I think that when Abigail and the girls are calling out witchcraft, Mary Warren actually buys into that. She kind of thinks that it's happening. She gets convinced. She gets caught up. And as a result of that, she does some bad stuff. Then, when Proctor sort of calls her out and she sees the way things are playing out, starts to realize that maybe the witchcraft allegations aren't true, that she's being played a little bit, she tries to switch over to the other side. Now, she's not particularly brave about it or anything like that. She takes a lot of pushing and cajoling and whatnot. That being said, I really do think she wants to do what's right. I think she misunderstands what's right. At the beginning of the play, I think she tries to rectify, but for me, I can't put her higher because she just doesn't have the strength of character or the strength of will to really be sort of that hero in waiting. She's more just kind of being affected by those around her and more or less wants to avoid conflict, I think, more than do the right thing. But I do think she wants to do the right thing. Who else do we have? Cheever, for me, he's an officer of the court. I put Cheever at about a 2 on the evil scale. The reason being, I don't think Cheever's necessarily a bad dude, but he is... Whoa, I dropped my pencil. He is sort of the embodiment for me of that passive evil of inaction that Zimbardo talks about. Cheever, again, he is the sort of quintessential blind follower of authority. He not only goes out and makes these arrests because it's his job, hey, I'm just doing my job, but even in the conversations with Danforth, he kind of calls John Proctor. When John Proctor says, look, I'm not trying to overthrow the court, I just want to do what's right, I just want to save my wife. Cheever's like, well, you did say, damn the court. It's like, Proctor was emotional, he was upset, and Cheever kind of knows that, but he feels like it's his duty to report all the facts. And in doing that, I think he is really guilty of this passive evil of inaction. That, hey, it's not my fault. I'm just doing my job. You can't blame me. And to me, that attitude still puts him on the evil side. Not as extreme as maybe some of our other characters, but still definitely on the evil side. We got 2 more. Giles. I'm gonna put Giles at a 5 on the goodness scale. I think Giles is the most pure and the most good character in the whole play. I think Giles is uneducated. I think he's ignorant. I think he's overly trusting. But generally, I think that he is a very innocent person. I think he's an honest person, a true person. I think any bad that he does in this play is an accident. That, he's asking about his wife and her books, but he has no idea that that's going to lead to this arrest and trial, that he is willing to stand up when he sees these wrong things happening. He is willing to stand up and argue and make his case known, even in the face of these authority figures who he's kind of afraid of and feels intimidated by. And I think for the bad things that have come of his actions, he feels real remorse. I think he is really broken up about what's happened to his wife. And, we see that in Act 3 with him crying and saying, I broke charity with her. Similarly, he goes out and gets all these signatures and depositions to try and prove that these are good people. And when Danforth wants to know the names and whatnot of the people who signed the paper or the people who gave the affidavits, Giles is saying, no, I promised them no harm would come to them. I promised them no harm would come to them. He's really concerned with other people's safety and wellness and protecting other people more than himself. So I actually think Giles is really a very pure character, pure of heart, and one of my best characters in the play. The last character I'm going to do is that's not what I wanted to do, Abigail. And I'm going to tell you right now, this answer made me very unpopular with my other classes. Most of them put her at like a 5 or a 4. I'm going to be honest. I put her at the start of Act 2, I probably would have put her at a 1. At the end of Act 2, I might put her at a 2. I mean, Act 3, my apologies. And that made me very unpopular. People did not like that I said that. But here's my reasoning. Abigail is doing a lot of really bad stuff. Yes, 100%. She's sort of our main antagonist in a lot of ways. But here's my argument for why she's not the most evil character in the play. I think Abigail has had a really rough go of it. We know that she watched her parents be murdered when she was a kid. She was brought into Paris's home, who Paris doesn't like children. He never treated her with any love or care or anything. Then she finds John Proctor, thinks she's in love with him, has feelings for him, and he indulges that. He kind of uses her and then drops her. So she, after living this very difficult life, having no power, having no love, having no affection, gets it, and then is completely dropped and written off as a child, you don't know what you're talking about, etc., etc. I even think, she goes out into the woods, and the whole thing kind of gets kicked off by her, dancing and trying to curse Goody Proctor. I don't think that she really thinks that's going to do anything. It's kind of like a kid's game. You know what I mean? Abigail's 16, but you have to keep in mind, she's not 16 like you guys are 16, where you're in a society that respects you and treats you as, as a real person and educates you. She's 16 in a society that doesn't value children, that doesn't educate their children, that doesn't give children any power or agency, and she's also a girl, so there's the sexism aspect too, that women aren't treated as equal or as valuable as other as male members of the community. So Abigail's this entirely powerless character who is kind of used by John Proctor. She gets caught up in these actions that I don't think she really thought would bring any harm. It was sort of innocent, childish, like, I'm angry, so I'm going to throw a hissy fit. And then, as a result of that, these things start to spiral out of control. Now, the reason why I put her on the evil side is because I do think she's doing a lot of horrible things, obviously. I think once she gets caught up, she sort of tries to get the blame off of her. And then she realizes that now she has power. Now she has a voice. Now she has control. Now she can get back at people who wronged her. She's important now. And so that starts to go to her head, and she starts to get carried away with that. That being said, I still think she is a kid, and especially she has been treated as a kid and oppressed as a kid in this society. So I have a really hard time making her more evil than somebody like Paris or Putnam or Danforth, because these are adult men in positions of power. They are the ones who can and should stop what's happening here. Abigail is driving the accusations, yes, but she also is a totally disenfranchised person. And so I have some sympathy for her for that, and I think I can be a little more understanding of why somebody like Abigail would lash out and do such horrible things, and less understanding about some of the more senior male members of the community. So it's okay if you don't agree with me on any or all of these. These are just my thoughts and opinions. I am super curious how I compared to you. But anyway, just wanted to do that real quick. So to wrap up real quick, because I need to get uploading this to the YouTubes, your homework is to finish Act 3. If you YouTube Crucible Act 3, that audiobook we listened to will pop up, so you're more than welcome to listen to that and follow along in your book, or just read, whatever works for you. The other thing I'm going to post is a vocabulary sheet. So we are going to finish the Crucible early next week. We're going to finish the Crucible on Monday. We'll be done with Act 4. We'll talk about the end of Act 3. We'll finish Act 4 for homework on Monday. And then we're going to start working towards our final assessment. So for our final assessment, what I want to do is sort of I hate to use the word test, but sort of a test that combines vocab and writing. So the vocab, there's 20 words. It's going to be 20 multiple choice questions. I wanted to include that because it's sort of an objective assessment. You know, you guys can study really hard and knock that out of the park. So take a look at that vocabulary. Start studying this weekend. The words, I have the word, the definition, and an example of it in a sentence. You need to know the definitions, and you need to know how it would be used in a sentence. It's going to be multiple choice, but you should know from the part of speech and from the example sentence if I'm using it correctly or incorrectly. So, for example, I think your first word is inert. If I say, I love to inert on the weekends, that's not correct, because inert is not a verb. It is an adjective. So I would say, I lay inert. Or is it an adverb? Anyway, you get my gist. So that's going to be one part of it. The second part is you're going to write a short analytical piece for me. I don't want to do a full essay on the Crucible. I think we've done a great job with it, and I don't want to beat it to death. So what I'm going to do is give you a short, specific question just on sort of the ending of the play. So you can just kind of focus on Act 4 and the way the play ends. It's going to be like a 1 to 2 paragraph in-class thing. So you'll do your 20-question vocab quiz. You'll have the rest of the period, and this is probably going to be on either half on Wednesday, half on Friday, or I'm going to have to figure out, and again, with us being out of school today, I have no idea how this is going to look, but anyway, bottom line, you need to know your vocab, and you should be prepared. We're going to write a short analytical piece. I'm going to give you time to outline and study in class. Again, ideally, not on Tuesday. For you guys, it would be Wednesday. Ideally, we'll be in class for that, but who knows? And then the assessment is going to take place, ? Right now. It'll either be at the end of next week or the start of the week after that. I'm not 100% sure because, again, we have to be a little flexible with the way things are playing out here. So, anyway, homework. Read the end of Act 3. Be prepared to talk about that in some way next class. Start studying that vocab. And I look forward to maybe seeing you in person soon, ? Have a good day, guys. Bye.